CorelDRAW tips and tricks. Today we'll look at drawing boxes and circles with yours truly, Steve Spence. Brought to you by Conde Systems. In this session we'll look at some of the meat and potatoes of CorelDRAW, how to draw rectangles, ellipse or circles, polygons, and even some special shapes. You'll find our shortcut tools over here in the toolbox on the left-hand side. If you hover on them, they will tell you what they are. Let's take the rectangle tool, go out in the drawing space. We're going to do a left click and drag the mouse. Left click, drag the mouse. We can make whatever shape we want, provided it always has 90-degree corners. Take a look at this rectangle while we're here, and let's note that we have some dark black boxes that surround the object. These are called handles. If we hover over one of the handles, we can do a left click and we can change the size of the box proportionally to what we originally drew it. If we hover over one of the side boxes, we can make it longer or shorter. Same thing with top and bottom. There's also some little boxes on the very corners of our rectangle. These are called nodes. We'll come back to that later on. To make a box a specific size, we first select the box using the left mouse button, and then we go up to these two numbers on our top toolbar, and we can type over them whatever numbers we want. Let's make our box 3 inches wide and 4 inches tall. Click off into space or hit the return key, and now our box is 3 by 4 inches. If we want to change it again, we can. Let's make it 7 and 4, and there you are. So making boxes the size we want them is easy. What about a square? We can always try our best to make a square and get it right, but of course we're never going to be able to do it. So a quick, easy way to make sure that our rectangle is actually a square is simply by pushing the Control key. If you hold down the Control key while you move your mouse, it will produce a perfect square. Let off of the Control key first, and you see it changes. Let off the mouse first, and it retains the square. Let's get rid of these and look at the circle tool. Just under the square tool, we'll click on that, and now we can draw a circle. Of course, that's not really a perfect circle, but it'll do for the moment. We can do ovals, long, skinny ellipses, whatever size or shape you want. And we control the size exactly the same way we did before. Let's get rid of all of these except one, and we'll focus in on it. We'll select this long ellipse, and we want it to be exactly 8 inches long and exactly 2 inches tall. Click off into space, and there is our 8 by 2 inch ellipse. Let's look now at polygons. Oh, I'm almost forgot. We want to make a circle too, don't we? So let's select the circle tool, or the ellipse tool to be more specific, and we're going to do a left click and drag. But getting that to be a perfect circle is not easy. But if we push the Control key, it makes it perfect every time. Release the mouse button first, and it retains a perfect circle. Now we can still alter it using
our handles, but it creates it as a perfect circle. To change the size of the circle, we can use the corner handles, and we can make it larger or smaller. Okay, let's get rid of this and let's look at the Polygon tool for a moment. The Polygon tool is located under the Ellipse tool, and it allows us to draw multi-sided objects. Triangles are harder to draw than you might imagine, but with this tool, they're perfect every time. Now, I want to draw your attention to this box right here. It is the Polygon side box, and with it we can change the number of sides in our polygon. Want 99? No problem. There is 99 sides in that polygon. We have to look really close to see them, but they're there. In the old days, this is actually how we drew circles. Now it's a little more mathematical and a little more precise, but you get the idea. Let's go back to an 8-sided object or hexagon, and there again you can see we have handles to change the size. When we go to draw it, if we use the Control key, it will draw a perfect sided polygon, but we can always distort it. Notice too, there are nodes all throughout that polygon. We'll come back to that in a moment. Now let's take a look at special shapes. Under the Polygon key is Basic Shape tool. Let's click on that. Now if we go out into the drawing space and we just draw a object like we have been doing all along, this is what we get, kind of a skewed rectangle. And that's probably not what you really want. You probably have in mind something a little more ornate. And in order to get that, we're going to look back up here again for perfect shapes. If we click on that, we get a drop-down menu. And in that menu, we have a number of different shapes. Here's a triangle. Click on it again, and there's a heart. Hearts are incredibly difficult to create if you don't know exactly what you're doing. It takes a number of steps to create a nice looking heart. And guess what? Here we can do it in just one click. Red Cross logo, there you go. Teardrop. Picture frame. Well, you can play with these as much as you want to, but you can see that it makes drawing these common objects very, very easy, and that always makes us smile. Now let's come back to our very basic rectangle tool, and let's look at it one more time. As we look at our rectangle tool, we're going to notice a couple of different things. Remember the handles, and remember those little nodes in there? Sometimes we want a rectangle, but we also want it distorted. And changing a rectangle from having 90-degree angles takes just a little bit of skill. Here's how it's done. It's really very easy. We've selected the rectangle. We're going to go to Arrange, Convert to Curves. Now it really hasn't changed the rectangle at all, but what it has done behind the scenes, it has released the nodes so that we can have access to them to do whatever we want. But we can't do it with the Pick tool. We have to do it with what's called the Shape tool. In earlier versions it was called the Node tool, and you'll often hear me refer to it as the Node tool. we're going to select this shape tool, and now we can select one of those little nodes, and look what we can do. We can make it any position we want. So we can turn that rectangle into a rather modern looking arrow. And we can go back again. Want to move this one? No problem. So we can create lots and lots of shapes, starting with the basic rectangle and then converting it to curves. One last thing, and we'll close this session. This will actually be discussed in another unit, but just so you can see it coming, would you like to put those two shapes together and make them look like one? It's really very easy to do. First, we're going to select what was a rectangle. Then we're going to hold down the Shift key and select the teardrop. Now we're going to go to Arrange, Shaping, and Weld. And they are now two objects made into one. This is called welding, and we'll talk a lot more about it in the session called How to Weld. Now let's go back to our tool box over here, and let's notice, please, that underneath the basic shape tool there is a black arrow. If we click on the arrow, we get a flyout menu. We've been looking at the basic shapes, but there are also other options here. Arrow shapes. Again, we go back up to the top and click, and we get a drop-down menu of arrows that are already made. And look at this. See the red diamond? If we move the diamond, we can alter the shape of the object. And that's true with all of these objects, no matter which menu you pull them from. Let's go back there one more time. Get that drop-down menu. You can do flowcharts, and this is really nice for the awards industry. These are banner shapes. And again, we go back up to the top, and we can select a banner. Or, having a big sale, we can select one of these. Fill it with yellow, put new or on sale or something like that in there, and it makes a really quick, easy way to draw attention to your graphic. Now before we go on to the next step, let's go back over here again, and let's just take 1 second and let's look at the flyout menu that is under the Polygon tool. You can experiment and look at these others, but if I can click on it, one of the ones that is really helpful is under the Polygon tool, and it's the star tool. Click on that and we go up, and it just looks like a standard polygon, but let's draw it. It's a star. Want a 6-sided star, 7-sided, 8-sided, as many as you want. And these, of course, are all can be manipulated just like all the other objects we've been dealing with. Now, here's a little note that's just really cool. See all the little nodes on our star? Let's go over to the Node tool, or more specifically, it's called the Shape tool. Click on that, and now let's come over and let's work with our nodes a little bit. Look what we can do. Just by moving that one node, we can change the shape of our star. Cool, huh? Well, that does it for today's session on rectangles and circles and special shapes. There's a lot more that you may need to know, and a good bit of it you'll find in the session that is called Working with Line Widths. There's some very important information in there that will help you not only work with lines, but also with boxes, rectangles, and squares, etc., because they are obviously lines. That does it for today. Thanks so much. Good luck.